we are. So Swamiji will be joining us all the way from Cochin. You know, it's a dream come true. If anybody goes to Cochin, India, anybody wants to go to Tapavam Ashram. Bhai Sahib, go to Tapavam Ashram in Cochin, India. It is a beautiful sight. It's heaven on earth. I really mean it. It's a beautiful place just to learn about yourself. Just like Geeta Dham, we go to learn about ourselves. So this is another place in the south. With that, let's see if we have a slide or two. Otherwise, we will try to invite them right now. So Swami Bhoomananda is the founder of the CIRD Center, it's called, Center for Inner Resources and Development. They have 4 centers, Jamshedpur, India, Delhi in India, obviously, and they also have 2 centers in the US. So they are out of here. And his focus has always been on the Bhagavad Gita, and that is to get to know yourself. And that's what he's all about. The meaning of karma yoga is not to get engaged in doing more and more activities, but to cultivate the yoga and the orientation of the mind. So there we go. So basically saying spiritual wisdom is aimed at making the mind light, the intelligence clear, and the ego extinct. How else can we put it? Practicing the Bhagavad Gita. There's several booklets that he's written on it. It's just amazing. So I think there's probably another slide on them, and then we'll get Bhoomananda online. So there you go. This is heaven on earth is what I meant. So go to Cochin. I met him, and Guru Maya just looked like I had met Swamiji. It was just complete baffling. And Swamiji, Hariharji Maharajan they have met him in Malaysia. So thank you so much. And Namrataji, thank you for joining all the way. Anandamji, thank you for joining all the way. You should be on right now. Please convey my regards to Swamiji, Nutanji as well. But thank you for joining. And we're looking forward to Swamiji's message right now. Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev.
So I am beginning. Shuddho buddho vimuktaha shruti shikhara giram mukhyata atparya bhumihi yasmad jatam samastam jagadidam amrtat vyapya sarvam stito yaha yasyam sham shavataraihi suranaravanajairekshitam sarvametad tam bhumanam mukundam hridigatamalam krishnameva prapadye. Tam bhumanam mukundam hridigatamalam krishnameva prapadye. Madhya hridaya kashe sadanandamayo guruhu udetu satatam samyak swatmananda prabodhakaha. Harihi, Harihi, Harihi Om Tatsat. Jai Guru, Jai Guru. I would like all of you to join me in reciting together the auspicious monosyllable Om, Om, 3 times. While reciting jointly with me, I would like every one of you to have a deliberate thought, a deliberate sankalpa in your mind that this joint recitation must pervade the whole of the earth and shower its benedictions on all the creatures upon the earth. This is a kind of a thought process which the human alone in the whole creation can and will do. Understand the value and the greatness of this austerity. The chanting of Omkara has got several effects. We in India had developed it for the sake of its effects, salutary effects on the mind, intelligence, brain, etc. Now the cardiologists the world over have recognized that the chanting of Om has got a very beneficial effect to keep the health of the heart and also its longevity. I don't explain it further, but all of you understand. Now while chanting, I would like you to interlock your fingers first and put them on your lap. Then sit comfortably erect, wherever you are. Close your eyes and then open the mouth and the heart and join me. We shall recite it 3 times. Here we go. Oh. 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 Hari Om Tassat. Jai Guru. I hope you have done well and also enjoyed it. If you have, then remember this. You can do this Omkara chanting in your own houses or other suitable places as a regular practice. It will improve your health, physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual. Keep it in mind. My dear and blessed souls, I am very happy to be present in front of an audience arranged by Geeta. Especially this particular program, as I understand, is arranged by Geeta Minnesota Center. I remember well Vivek Kamran having come to the ashram some time back after I gave a lecture earlier for Geeta. His stay was very comfortable and beneficial to all of us. I am very happy. About Hariharji Maharaj also I have a great regard. I used to know about him due to my visits. I have been visiting Malaysia for quite a number of years, maybe for decades. I understand that Geeta is established the world over. Maybe 600 odd ashrams are there. It is a phenomenal number so far as we are concerned. How did Swamiji establish so many centers? If all these centers activate themselves and they develop a kind of a collective commitment, dedication, devotion, and exclusiveness, they can shake the entire earth. But the question is, are they ready for it? Are they willing? And do they have the resolution and commitment for the purpose? I raise this question before all of you. I was told that I should speak on the subject. The caption is Bhagavad Gita for management of anger, ego, and desire. When I read this title, I started laughing. You know, I have been speaking on Bhagavad Gita for the past 60 and odd years. Wherever I go, the evening I shall be discussing Bhagavad Gita. I discuss the more serious texts in the morning times. Nowhere anybody has asked me to speak on a subject like this. Management of anger, ego, and desire, and Bhagavad Gita for that. I wanted to record this because it should go into the world record and also the history and dissemination of Bhagavad Gita. So I compliment the title framers. Now, so far as the title and Bhagavad Gita are concerned, I would like all of you to know that Bhagavad Gita is totally devoted to dealing with and sublimating dvesha, anger, desire, and ego. The topic before us today. Bhagavad Gita has this subject and this subject alone. Swamiji, how do you say this? If you ask me, I have an answer to give. This Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Arjuna, the fighter, on the one hand, and Sri Krishna, the charioteer. He was the instructor on the other. The human mind generates very regularly and systematically hatred, anger, or dislike. You call it resentment, dislike, hatred, or anything like that. Desire is the root cause of everything. All the urges that the mind generates, preserves, intensifies, the root cause of all is the desire. Arjuna came to the battlefield of Kurukshetra after having prepared for 13 long years. Can you imagine? And he had done severe austerities, foregoing even his sleep during his forest life. He came to the battlefield. The chariot was driven by Krishna. It was a long ambition in Arjuna's mind that he should win a war, Krishna driving the chariot. So his ego was very much swollen with competitional ambition and consequent delusion. But Arjuna did not know this. First, he told Krishna whatever he felt after he was driven and his chariot was stopped right in front of Bhishma, the grandfather, and Drona, his teacher. You know, there is a lot of significance in what Krishna did, in having stopped the chariot right in front of these two aged great souls. Bhishma was the grandfather of Arjuna. Arjuna had no father. So it was Bhishma who had put him on his lap and given him morsels of food when he was young. And between them, Arjuna had all the honor, respect, and humility before Bhishma, and Bhishma had all affection and fondness for Arjuna. You tell me now, can there be a war between two such people? If you are a fighter, what will you think? Another is the teacher, Drona, from whom Arjuna had imbibed all his fighting skills and special weapons also. Having imbibed all the fighting skills, how to use them against the teacher himself? Think of you. If you were standing in the battlefield, what would have been your mind like? Tell me. So Arjuna was totally flabbergasted, absolutely unnerved. He had a lot of reactions. He came there with a lot of ambition and aspiration, expectation also. Now everything is different. What am I going to do? Where am I standing? Is my fighting skill to be employed here in this situation? What is meant by humanhood then? What will be human mind like? Will my mind or intelligence permit my using weapons against my own grandfather and the teacher? Arjuna was totally unnerved. He poured forth to Krishna whatever he felt. Krishna heard him. But the story was different. The moment Krishna understood what Arjuna was feeling, Krishna started admonishing him. Suddenly, a drastic change took over Arjuna. Krishna said, "My dear Arjuna, this is a battlefield. Everyone who has come here to fight and kill his enemy or to get killed by his enemy. Nobody wants to return from the battlefield alive, without having won the war. This being the situation, what kind of a sympathy and fondness you are raising here? You are a valorous fighter, illustrious fighter, and you have fought a number of wars. Is this anything new? You have not invited them. All of them have come as you have come out of their own option. Your grandfather also is there. Your teacher also is there. Both of them were belonging to the Hastinapura dynasty. You alone have come away. All of them stand together, then as well as now. So they naturally stood on Duryodhana's side. What is there for you to think or say? Whatever feelings you have, they being elders and far more mature, they will also have similar, even greater feelings, but still they have come ready to fight. Instead of getting overpowered in the manner in which you have been, why don't you go to them and ask them? Instead of that, you say, I will not fight, I will not fight. This fight is irregular, immoral, unrighteous. It will take us to hell, etc., from where we cannot escape for an indefinitely long period. So he was thoroughly confused. He struggled, but he could not get an answer. Ultimately, my dear souls, he submits very beautifully. This is verse 7 of the 2nd chapter. I would like to recite it for you. Normally, I will recite it and make my listeners also follow me line after line. This here, I cannot do it. Karpanya dosho bhagata swabhavaha. My mouth is drying a little bit. Karpanya dosho bhagata swabhavaha. Prichami tvam dharma sammuta chetaha. Yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me. Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. See, he came as an illustrious, ambitious fighter. Now he confesses before Krishna, standing on the chariot in the battlefield, I have been overpowered by narrow-mindedness. This is what every one of you is suffering from. You are all born as humans and you want to live gloriously as a human. But you must study life, understand life. Especially you should know that your personality is a composite one. And this body and senses are only one part of it, the external gross part. It is hosting an inner personality consisting of an emotional mind, a rational intelligence, and an assertional ego. Do you know anything about your inner personality? Mind cannot be seen. It can only be understood. Not by the senses. Senses can only see outside objects. What about the mind? How do you know that you have a mind? How do you sense or comprehend your thoughts? How do you understand your reason? And what is meant by intelligence? Where does ego come here? Have you ever thought? Have you ever examined? Is it not a subject of study which every reasonable human should take up as early as possible in life? After having disobeyed the laws of nature even, you are struggling and you are complaining. What to do, what to do. If you want to live well, you must understand life. If you want to be successful, you should understand what makes success for you. It is not the body. The body is inert. It is made up of matter. This matter is provided by the food that you are taking. The entire body and senses are matter. Matter. Is not matter inert, I-N-E-R-T, insentient? Can it generate any experience? Can it generate any knowledge? The entire creation consists of matter and energy. Our whole body is matter and energy. This body and senses cannot generate any experience at all. Any experience at all. So the inner personality is there. That should be understood and no effort is being made. The story was the same with Arjuna. So he says, I am suffering from narrow-mindedness. I am confused with regard to what should be done and what should not be done. What is the ethics that I should adopt after having come here? So I ask you with a lot of humility and submission, my dear Krishna, tell me, wherein lies my promotion? Wherein lies my elevation? What will give me everlasting bliss, everlasting fulfillment? I am no more your brother-in-law. I am no more an illustrious fighter. I surrender and tell you, I am a disciple and I am looking at you. You are my teacher. Take the position of a teacher. Regard me as a disciple and let me know how I can overcome this delusion, this muddle that I have fallen into. This is the submission Arjuna made. If you make a similar submission, what is the wonder in it? Every human being will get into a situation like this sooner or later in life. Is it not clear to you now that Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue which is focused on the problems on the mind and the art and process of resolving them? We generally consider Bhagavad Gita to be a dialogue between Krishna on the one hand and Arjuna on the other. If you understand the dialogue properly and make a proper evaluation, this is what Bhagavad Gita is. It is a ceaseless dialogue between the enlightened intelligence of the human and the deluded and confused mind of the same human. Make the intelligence enlightened, all the problems of the mind will be resolved by it. Unfortunately, we don't understand the potentials, the possibilities, the magnitude, the majesty and magnificence of our intelligence. The same applies to the mind also. Somehow the body hosts a mind, hosts an intelligence, but we never care to know what is meant by the mind, what is meant by the intelligence. What is happening? A number of negative psycho-intellectual elements are generated in everyone, and all of them are hindering his performantial resolve and excellence at all times. If this situation has to change, you have to study Bhagavad Gita and understand your own inner personality sufficiently well. When I look at life, I feel, and I want every one of you to feel, that life is experiential. There is a lot of meaning in what I say. Every moment of your life, you are experiencing. As it is experiential, it is also interaction. What is happening every day? After the few hours of sleep, you get up in the morning or at other times. The moment you open your mouth, your interactional life starts. You look at the roof, look at the wall, look at the floor, you go to the toilet, the life starts. And it continues to be interactional until you stop all your interactions, take your bed, and the eyes close and sleep. Thereafter, what happens? The sleeping man wakes up and the wakeful man finally sleeps. Are you following me, my dear souls? I will not leave you. Every sleeping man only wakes up, and every wakeful man only sleeps at the end of wakefulness. Wakefulness is from sleep, and wakefulness is to sleep again. So every wakefulness lasting for 16 or 70 hours of our day, it is in between two sleeps. Can you locate anyone who has not woken up from sleep? Can you locate anyone who has been wakeful but not entering into sleep at the end? Such people are not available. So our life is interactional. This interactional as well as experiential. Body and senses, I told you, completely made up of matter. They cannot generate any experience. So where from the experience comes? It can only come from something other than the body. What is there? Our mind is there. Our intelligence is there. Yes, this is the mind. It is not part of the body. It is associated with the body. How many times shall I say this? Mind is not a physical part of the body. It is associated with the body. The mind is supra-material in nature, content, and in everything. It is not at all material. That is why we call it spiritual. That mind is employing our senses. That mind is employing our senses as well as the body for all the interactions that are taking place. Mind is employing. Suppose you see an object. Say, let us say a tree. What is happening? Light rays falling upon the tree get reflected from the tree and they touch and pass through the cornea. The moment that contact is established, the eyes are sending electrical pulses to the brain. And where is the experience taking place? Is it in the eye level or in the body level, or is it totally inner? So, my dear souls, will you understand this truth? Do you have intelligence? Will you apply it properly and rationally? Those senses are employed by the mind for interaction and experiences. The experiences are totally inner, where the mind is. Every experience is inner, 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 not physical, not bodily, not sensory. It is inner, inner, inner. So every experience and knowledge, not at all external or physical or sensory, it is all inner and inner. The story of our inside is this. Krishna and Geeta say, listen to it. Ichhadvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. My dear Arjuna, let me tell you, our discussion is on anger, ego, and desire, mind you. See what Krishna says. This is verse number 27 of 7th chapter. At the time of birth, every creature is gripped by a twofold delusion. The delusion is in the form of ichha and dvesha, love and hatred. Sarva bhutani, all beings, sarge, at the time of birth, yanti, they undergo. So is there any wonder if you have hatred? Is there any wonder if you have jealousy or intolerance? You cannot have only positive emotions. The world consists of pairs of opposites. If there is love, equally there is hatred. If there is goodness, there will be badness also. If there is profit, there will also be loss. If there are friends, there will be enemies also. So good and bad, sin and virtue, past and present, present and future, all these are pairs of opposites which constitute the world. So our mind will certainly produce love as well as hatred. Love as well as hatred. This is the nature. So right from the beginning, we suffer from a delusion. These delusions and the delusional effects, if you leave them to themselves, they will go on growing, multiplying, getting intensified. So you have to be enlightened about your enslavement in life. Mark my words. We are all slaves to the twofold delusion. In order to overcome it, what should be done? You should become enlightened about your own personality, the nature and constitution of the world, and what is our interactional life. Generally, what is that? A good knowledge of the world, a good knowledge of our own personality, particularly the inner personality. First of all, gain this knowledge. After gaining this knowledge, apply it. Apply it. Where will you apply it? When will you apply it? My dear souls, my answer is very clear. You will apply it in the wakeful state during all your interactions. It should be a corollary to your interactional life. The sublimation of ragadveshas, sublimations of ichha and dvesha, equally so desire and ego. This has to take place parallel to your interactions. First of all, get an insight. I always say in human life, knowledge is the greatest persuasion. If you tell anybody anything in a rational and systematic manner and make the point clear, if he is intelligent, he has to accept it. So I always say, whenever a value is properly discussed and exposed, the reader or the listener will immediately come back with a twofold response: an emotional persuasion and a rational compulsion to what you have said. So here also the same applies. A constant effort should be made by everyone to reform and refine and enrich your mind, to understand how much of emotional stress you have, emotional affinity you have, and what do you have to do with the negative emotions. Krishna only exposed the truth. What? Krishna only spoke for 2 or 2.5 hours. Arjuna only heard. Krishna spoke. Arjuna heard. Speaking was done by the mouth and the tongue. Hearing was done by the ears and the brain, the mind of Arjuna. So every word has its impact on Arjuna. Similarly, the words of Bhagavad Gita must have their impact on your mind and intelligence. Every word should give you a greater degree of knowledge, enlightenment, and consequent sublimation. The very hearing instituted the sadhana in the case of Arjuna. The very hearing. He was in the battlefield. He had no time to do any religious exercises or practice, nor did he sit for meditation. He only heard Krishna. Similarly, you should hear Bhagavad Gita properly explained. The battlefront and the battle, they themselves became the interactional sadhana for Arjuna. You know what the battle progressed? 4.5 million warriors were present. When the war ended, only 10 survived. All the others fell dead there in the Kurukshetra itself. Abhimanyu died, Arjuna's son. Khadodgaja died, Bhima's son. Very great, colossal losses for them. How did Arjuna sustain? Did he stop fight? Did he excuse himself? Certainly not. So don't think that it was all victory with Krishna's blessings. Only 10 people survived out of 4.5 million, mind you. Arjuna sublimated all his negative emotions. My dear souls, you can also sublimate. For Arjuna, it was a cruel, righteous battle where he had to fight his grandfather. The teacher also had to be fought. Even in such a situation, that sublimation went on, and he was able to do it. For you, the battle is on your domestic front, professional front, and societal front. Whatever interactions are there, in all the interactions you will find what you interact with, namely the objects, they alone differ. The interacting subject, the individual, remains the same. Now, in the interactions, those senses are employed. The fulcrumatic point is the mind. You should know the potential of your mind and the potential of the intelligence. Know about your mind very well. The depth and the vastness of the mind, the potential and the magnificence of both the mind and the intelligence. Mind is not like a mustard. It is not even like a mountain or even the sea. Its dimension, its magnitude, its loftiness and majesty are infinitely greater compared to such a mind. Which mind? The mind that reflects the entire world of infinite distances and variety. All these are reflected within your body by the mind. Tell me, what is the majesty of that mind? Is it a mustard? Can you liken it even with the sea? No. It perceives the sea. It perceives and comprehends the sky, the endless sky. So its measure and magnitude should be much greater. Such a mind has got the potential to assimilate all kinds of interactional impacts. Krishna's words, listen to them. Abhuryamanam achala pradishtam samudram abhav pravishanti yadvad tadvat kama yam pravishanti sarve sashanti maapnodina kama kami. Actually, it should be recited properly. Abhuryamanam achala pradishtam samudramabhav pravishanti yadvad tadvat kama yam pravishanti sarve Sashantimapnoti na kama kami. A number of rivers gushingly flow into the sea. Some rivers are so wide, broad, and huge that you will feel the sea will start overflowing, but nothing happens. The sea remains where it is because of the vastness and the depth of the sea. All inflows are assimilated, salinity is transferred, the slush goes down, and every river becomes the sea. This is the way your mind can assimilate all impacts of life, my dear souls. At least remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. Have a sea-like mind, not a well-like mind or a tank-like mind or even a lake-like mind. Have a sea-dimensional mind. Let all the impacts come from wherever they are. You are so great, lofty, deep, profound, majestic, magnificent, superlatively so that every inflow can be assimilated by you. There is a beautiful verse in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in which he says, Indriyani paranyahuhu, indriyebhya paramanaha, manasastu parabuddhi, yo buddhehe paradastu saha. Ba. In your body you have senses. 5 senses perceive the world. These perceiving senses, the eye is the smallest. They are greater than the objects of the world. Indriyani paranyahu. Indriyebhya paramanaha. Superior to the senses is the mind. Superior to the mind is the intelligence. And still superior, and therefore most superior, is the eye that you have. Are you hearing me, my dear souls? What are you? Are you a mass of flesh? Or are you an animated and activated human being? Then understand this. The senses in you are superior. Mind is still more so. Intelligence is still further. And the eye, majestically so superior. Keeping all these things all superior to the world, what is the weakness that you are pleading? Pleading. Forget it. Dismiss it. Generate all the joy and contentment that you want. As much as you want. Contentment or joy is an emotion. It does not belong to the object at all. No object can ever enter your mind. Even the child newly born, it remains outside. The mother can only fondle it. You build a house, it remains outside. You buy a car, it remains outside. Nothing can touch the mind. The mind produces joy all by itself, by its own thought process, by its own comprehensional means. Understand this, my joy is emotion. It belongs to the mind alone. So generate all the joy from, with, and by the mind, from ultimately the most superior self. Be a mighty enjoyer. A mighty enjoyer. Equally so, a mighty sufferer. And thereby a mighty and majestic performer. Mahakarta, Mahabhokta. Become a majestic performer. A majestic experiencer. Compared to the nature, potential, vastness, and depth and loftiness of your mind, this world is nothing. All that you have to deal with is your own mind and its own emotions. The knowledge produced by the intelligence, that's all. All interactions are designed by the mind, implemented by the mind, and they also conclude and terminate in the mind, not in the body. You have the power to absorb and sublimate all impacts. Our mind is sufficient. That's all. Doubt not. Be rightly enlightened and be constantly striving. Let the glory and greatness be yours. It's a glory. By the fact of your human birth, you have a personality. The inner elements in which, namely the mind, intelligence, and ego, are all superior to the world of objects. You are unshakable, unassailable, invincible, immortal, immortal. The entire world is transitory. You alone are immortal. Understand this. Let everything take place. Tell them, come and go. Come and go. I remain without coming and without going. This is what Krishna says. Sukha and Dukha are the only resultants which interactional life can produce. These Sukha Dukhas, the entire world objects become 5 in the sensory level. The entire infinitude of objects, they are reduced into 5. And the 5 are further reduced into 2. What are the 5? Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha. It is sound, sight, smell, taste, and touch. And these 5 are reduced by the mind in the form of pleasant and unpleasant happiness and misery. They also dissolve when you sleep. So don't you think your mind has got capacity to reduce the infinite number of objects into 5 and further 2, and even the 2 are wiped off for such a long time, 7 to 8 hours of sleep? What do you think of the personality? So Krishna is telling every one of you to understand your personality, especially the inner personality, in full, and live in this world in a glorious manner, enriching yourself at every point of time, your interactional impacts, enriching yourself with them, and enriching the world also together alike. About dvesha, ego, etc., there are 3 things which are to be abandoned. One is ego, another is possessiveness, mamata, and the sloka in Bhagavad Gita is Vihaya kaman yas sarvan pumam sharadi nispraha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashanti madhigachadi. Have no desire. Why do you desire? You want contentment, and it belongs to your mind, not the world object. Then why should you desire any object? Are you not ashamed to seek contentment from objects like this, inert objects like this? It is generated by your mind. Keep the mind in such a manner, enrich it so that it will always generate joy that you want. That is possible also. So whoever is able to live and move in this world without desire, without ego, and without possessiveness, he is the best. And I think every one of you can do this. So your problem is completely resolved. You hold within your body a mind and an intelligence, the combined and harmonious function of which will be able to deliver you all the goals that you have set. You can drop your ego, drop your desire, and drop your anger. I can talk about this anger, etc. more. And generally, I want to present it in the background of the Gita, not 1 or 2 points alone. All of you are intelligent. You can think about it, magnify whatever I have said, apply it in your own context. Anger, it is an irritation. A man gets angry when he does not know what to do. Nobody likes anger. The man of anger does not like it. The others who are victims of anger, they also do not like. Neither God nor devil will like anger. Anger is generally expressed in the war front, in dealing with the enemies, that's all, not in other places. So I think, my dear souls, you can have enough and more emotional sublimation and therefore stability. You can have enough and more knowledge so that you will be very stable in your intelligence. Become a sthita prajna and also a sthita dhi and also a gunadita, All these are words of Bhagavad Gita. I think I have told you what is to be told on behalf of Geeta, Krishna, and also on behalf of Geeta Ashram. I wish Geeta Ashram takes up more the task of disseminating Brahma Vidya, as Bhagavad Gita's every chapter says, Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre. This is the real Yoga Shastra. May your efforts be successful, and whenever possible, you may ask me. I shall try to help you to the extent it is possible for me. I am happy to have been talking to you, though none of you is seen by me. I mentally embrace every one of you. I wish all of you have good children in your family. And these children should grow well, love the family, love equally the society. They grow well. And they must contribute to the GDP of the whole world, their own country as well as the world. And make sure that their life is a noble contribution to the world. If we can ensure it, I think the world will be far different. It will be much better. Okay. I will chant a concluding verse and an Omkara and then stop. Oh, question. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm ready for your questions. How can we make young adults, kids, interested in the practical teachings of Gita? They are always under the influence of technology and peer pressure. Why don't you use technology to teach Gita? I wanted to actually show you a PowerPoint on this one particular verse of Bhagavad Gita, Indriyani Paranyahu, etc. How many people are seeing it and appreciating it? So PowerPoint presentations can be had. When I tell them, some of the computer experts are not able to do it. I want to have a presentation. What is that? Vapor rising from the sea, traveling in the sky with various colors of the clouds, then going up the mountain, coming back as snow, further down as water, then in the form of rivulets flowing down, increasing the width and depth by tributaries, and finally benefiting a lot of area on the surface of the earth, goes back to the sea. This is the dimension that you should develop as a human being in this world. If anybody can help me to have a PowerPoint program, I shall be obliged. Some people make it and show me that's not standard at all. I want the sea to be shown, vapor to be rising, and going hither and there with various colors and shapes, then fall on the mountainous peaks, then flowing. See, I think technology is very good. Who will not like when the mind is improved? I generally tell students that if you take interest in spirituality, you know the immediate benefit is your mind will become sharper. The intelligence will become more perceptive. A subject you take 1 hour to study, you can study it, if not in 30 minutes, at least in 40 minutes. An engineering college student came to me one day and said, Swamiji, you say this. So I have been hearing your lectures, reading some books also. I got 3.2 in my examinations. Now suddenly I have gone up to 6.2 and excelled my classmates. I have scored 6.8. They are in 6.2 still. This is to speak the minimum. So it is a question of enriching and empowering the mind and intelligence. They become sharper and more focused. You will be able to talk better, think better, sleep better, and perform better. Spirituality is an addition to everybody. When this message is properly delivered, which child will not be interested in? Show me one child, especially an adult. We conducted a retreat program this time together with Guru Purnima. You know, out of the 40 odd people who came, 8 people were youngsters, married and not married. All of them were very accomplished. The only question that they had raised in the application which we had given for them to fill, the only question was, we want to go forward in life, facing the challenges, how to meet life, face challenges and go forward successfully. This is the only question they raised. You know, I was very much touched. What is my introspection over it? I said, all these people coming from various parts of the world and the country, they had to come to Narayanashrama Tapovanam, situated in rural environments in Kerala, where austere and ascetic people primarily live. So our life, our teachings, they have an abundant relevance to the present technological experts, I decided. This is my answer. In a busy life today, any quick mantra to apply breaks to the mind. See, mantra is only an optional thought. It is expressed in Sanskrit, that's all. But mantra means for the mind to revolve and repeat, to do manana. So any mantra you can. What mantra? I can make an English mantra and give you. A busy life today, any quick mantra to apply breaks to the mind. So you want the mind to stop? Speed breaker, mind breaker? You tell the mind. Be slow. Be slow. Be still. Be still. Be still. Be still. Be still. Who is the questioner? His name is not there. Generally, I don't like to answer any question where he does not mention his name. So I want to tell you, go on whispering and also revolving in your own mind deeply, but with fullness of attention. Be still, stillness, stillness, stillness. How many times? When I say, you will say in the busy life, it is not possible. Thousands of times, tens of thousands of times, you will find the mind become still. Don't ask me any question. Do it and answer, tell me. Every day you are spending at least 2.5 hours to look after your body, including eating, dressing, answering the calls of nature, bathing, etc. If you calculate all of it, it will be about 2 to 2.5 hours. Correspondingly, parallelly, how much time do you spend to nourish, strengthen, and embellish your mind and intelligence? You are using it, using both of them. But are you nourishing them as you nourish your body? You are guilty, my dear souls, guilty. You have no rational sense. You have no insight and perception into life. Be harmonious. Don't love your body too much to the exclusion of the mind and intelligence. The mind and intelligence employ the body. Therefore, nourish your mind. You can nourish your mind with mind's qualities. You can nourish the intelligence with intellect's qualities. Try to find what they are and try to cultivate them by being fond of them, remembering them, spending mind hours for the cultivation. It may not be mind hours, mind minutes for the cultivation. Every quality can be cultivated. For families in US, how to prioritize between duty to care for parents in India and kids' future and studies in US. Can I answer this question to your satisfaction over in this context? I doubt. See, I openly speak about it. When the parents permitted their children to go to US, what was in their mind? They will get settled there. If they get settled there, they will be distanced from the parents. In one sense, it is good because according to the Hindu culture, we have 4 ashramas. One is celibacy, brahmacharya, given totally for education. It may go up to the age of 21, 22, 23. Then they get married or take up sannyasa directly. So after getting married, when the children grow old, they become 24 or 25, they should retire from the household, entrusting it to the children and take up anchorage life. If they succeed in it, they should take up sannyasa. This is the way of life. And to introduce this and to institute this children being in the US is actually a favorable factor. So I think the best they can do is this. So you need not worry about your parents. You tell them to be properly settled. There are some very good old age homes where medical care is there. Social interests also are served in such places. And such establishments should be developed with greater standards, greater qualities and the like. So far as you are concerned. See, your children in the US, they are also human beings. They also want culture. What is culture? Culture is actually the intellectual achievements of a people practiced collectively by them. This is the definition of culture. Mind you, the cardinal phrase is intellectual achievements. When intellectual achievements constitute culture, tell me whether it is compulsory to receive it or not. Think about it. Our culture is not optional. It is compulsory by its nature. It is to enrich, empower, elevate, enlighten your mind, your intelligence, and make you a better performer, a better interactionalist. That is the purpose of culture. How can the children say that they are averse to it? With whose strength they will live, except with mind strength and the intellect's knowledge? A culture that is devoted to enriching and empowering the mind and equally enlightening the intelligence, can it be distasteful to anybody in this world? You should answer this cardinal question. I have answered the 3. Let anybody, intelligent man who is intelligent, come to me. I will tell him. In a short span, I will tell him what the so-called culture is, what Bhagavad Gita stands for. I have written a book called The Insight into Bhagavad Gita. In that book, I have described Bhagavad Gita as an administrative treasure trove. Bhagavad Gita is not a religious text. It was a dialogue that transpired in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is far away from religion and religious practice. Don't call it a religious book. It's not at all. The purpose was not that. Background was not that. Foreground also is not that. It was dealing the problems of the mind and the intelligence using the intelligence itself. It is a problem-resolving dialogue. Problems are of the mind. Solution is from the intelligence. So it is a conversation between an enlightened intelligence and a deluded mind. And the mind is deluded with secular thoughts, secular problems. Okay. Now, shall I conclude? Who will tell me? Shall I conclude the session then, with the permission of all of you? Okay. I will recite a verse as I told you, then we shall jointly recite one more conclusional Omkara and then disperse. സംവേദ്യവർജിതമനുത്തമമേകമാദ്യം സംവിത്പദം വികലനം കലയൻ മഹാത്മൻ ഹൃദ്യേവ തിഷ്ഠ കലനാരഹിത ക്രിയാം തു കുർവൻ അകർത്തൃപദമേത്യ ശമോദിതശ്രീ കുർവൻ അകർത്തൃപദമേത്യ ശമോദിതശ്രീ. ഹരി ഹരി ഹരി. Now take your pose and we shall have the conclusional Omkara. Harihi Om Tats. Jai Guru. Jai Guru. Jai Guru. Okay.